Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest Frank Mesa, who's here to share with us his new book, Alchemy. It's as easy as ERD, a decision-making framework for turning pain into power. What if the pain you survived could become the very thing that transforms your life? I know many of us would be interested in hearing about that. And today's guest is going to dive into just that. Frank Mesa is an executive leader, author, and speaker with over 30 years of experience navigating high-pressure environments and complex human dynamics. So welcome to the show, Frank Mesa.
Thank you, Marianne. It's such a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me on and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, to say you're a powerhouse would be limiting what you truly are. So I'm not even going to reference you as that, but my goodness, your work is so empowering. Why do you feel people feel stuck in life and especially relationships? It seems like such a big deal.
Well, I believe that recognizing patterns is something that is a blind spot to most. So, there's a saying that, many people don't live 50, 60, 70 years. They'll live 1 year 50, 60, 70 times, and they'll just keep going round and around and doing the same old things. And so being able to recognize patterns when something is wrong is important, because once you recognize that pattern, you can choose differently.
So then what encouraged you or inspired you to write your book?
Well, I have an interesting journey thus far. I'm 55 years old. I've, had a, very challenging childhood. I grew up as a child of immigrant parents that came from Cuba. There was a lot of, you know, mental illness and emotional abuse at home. I also grew up in New York City in the time, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where, crack cocaine was ravaging the streets, and lost a lot of friends to violence and drug abuse and incarceration. Even through all that, I was able to navigate all of that and carve out a successful career for myself. And although I've had several challenges in my personal life with regard to relationships and everything else, I feel like I came out the other end pretty well. And so I wanted to, pay back or give back, because I believe the lessons that I've learned, if others could learn from them as well, it would save them a lot of the pain and anguish that I went through, or actually just turn their pain into power. And that's what the subtitle of the book is.
It is a very profound journey that you've been on, helping so many people realize, hey, they're stuck and there's a better life out there for them. What really had you start digging into that whole area of discovering what keeps people stuck?
Well, I was stuck myself. I realized that I kept repeating the same pattern. And I said to myself, I called it a merry-go-round. I didn't really have a language for it. And I said, I feel like I'm just in life, I'm stuck on this merry-go-round and I can't get off. Relationships are the same. Friendships are kind of the same. Exchanging faces, but the same patterns kept coming up. And it was through basic frustration that I started my search. I said, well, I need to figure out what is going on here. And when I did, that's when I discovered the decision-making framework that is the title of the book, which is ERD.
Well, I can't wait to jump into that. But I have to also ask, because I also know that you were runner up on season one for The Amazing Race. Was that also a partial catalyst for you to dive into the work that you're doing today?
Well, absolutely, but it wasn't until years later, and it's funny because it's interesting to think that it was 25 years ago, just this month, that that show concluded, the shooting of the show, the filming of the show. So it was 25 years ago, but it wasn't until many years later that I actually had the privilege and the luck to have something on recorded video. When I started to recognize patterns, I looked back and recognized that there was that exact pattern was actually happening on national television, and I was able to identify it and actually produced a short video that's on my YouTube channel of that. Where you may not know that the reason you're stuck is because of people wanting to make you not succeed and not progress in life. So that was one lesson that I've learned, and it was a wonderful experience being on that show. Like you said, I was the runner up along with my partner. But years later, being able to reflect, look back, and realize, like I say, I was playing a game within a game that I didn't even know I was playing.
Well, it was such a privilege to watch that video and you break it down the way you did. Made so much sense. And I encourage everyone to go and check that out as well. One of the things that I think people have such a tough time, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, I mean, we get into relationships and it's like we're dating the same person over and over and over again, or we have the same problems with our bosses, or somebody, it could be another person at work or at home. So, how can people recognize these like emotional and behavioral patterns?
So discomfort is, if you feel discomfort, that's the first sign, right? There's nothing wrong with you. Discomfort is a beacon. It's telling you that there's something to look into. There's something to learn from the experience. And emotions are the most powerful things that we have, right? They're energy and motion, and we all have energy, and we're always exchanging energy with other people. And I break it down kind of to the simplest way I can come up with, is that there are people who generate energy and people who take energy. And generally, people who generate energy attract people who take energy. And if you feel drained, and if you feel like, you feel discomfort or confusion or anything like that when you're um, engaging with someone, whether it's a family member, a romantic relationship, a business relationship, whatever, at work, if you feel drained, if you feel confused, if you feel discomfort, then that's a beacon to tell you something is wrong and you should really look into that.
So, let's dive into the ERD framework. What is that and how does that work?
Okay, so again, I was, reflecting on my life. At one point, I hit rock bottom. I was, you know, drinking excessively. I was using drugs. I was a shell of myself, and I had really hit rock bottom. In my book, I described that I was actually at the point of suicide. And through divine intervention, I was saved from that. But when I came to, I basically realized that every decision in life is going to lead you down one of three paths. And so ERD really stands for evolve, revolve, or devolve. And so that applies to any area of your life. It can apply to your finances, it can apply to your health, it can apply to your career, your business, personal development. It applies to anything. But when it comes to relationships, it also applies, right? So every decision we make, and that's the criticality of it, is that once you're conscious of the fact of the importance of the decisions you make, when you're making a decision and it's leading you down a path of revolving, then you know that that is where you're going to be, and that's the experience you're going to have in life. If you're taking a path of devolving, which means that you're basically numbing out and checking out in life, to take a decision to devolve is going to lead you right there. And then also, if you make a decision to evolve, that's where the magic happens, right? It's like you have to lean into that. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be very much worth it, because you're going to raise yourself to an altitude and a level where those issues will no longer be a concern because people who want to be revolving or people who want to have you in a revolving pattern, like I say, they cannot breathe at that altitude. So when you're choosing to evolve and you're taking action on this decision to evolve, really life unfolds for you in a beautiful and magical way.
Does that mean we won't come into any challenges, or we're just more aware of the red flags when they show up?
Oh no, no, you'll be aware. You'll be aware of the you'll be having lots of challenges, but you're choosing to evolve through those challenges, which is what gives you the ability to overcome those challenges. If you're faced with an issue or a challenge and you decide to evolve through it, you're going to do the research, you're going to take the actions, you're going to do what's necessary to get you on the path to evolve through it. You'll still see the red flags, but now you'll be able to identify them and then work through them. But if you just give up, throw your hands up, and say, "Oh, this is just what I'm, destined to do is just revolve and keep, repeating the same mistakes and doing the same things, expecting a different result." I mean, what they say about that. That's the definition of madness. So choosing to evolve is definitely going to be challenging, but it's going to be worth it.
I think I'll speak for myself. I'm sure that I haven't many times danced with madness, trying to do the same thing over and over again and going, what is going on with him or her or these people,
Mhm.
or the people at work? So turning that lens inward, it's tough initially, but it's so well worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is you have to reflect. You have to say, okay, it's on me. I take the responsibility. Because again, when it comes to the relationships, right? I recognize what I was bringing to the table, right? Everyone brings something to the table. And what I was bringing to the table was a need to be validated, a need to be connected to someone in a very unhealthy manner. And so, because I didn't heal my own wounds that I came in with, I was expecting someone else to heal me or help me heal, and that could lead to disaster. Like, my dad was a really great man, and he instilled really amazing values in me. But I like to say that great values coupled with the wrong person is a recipe for disaster, and that turned out to be the case for me more than once in my life. So, back to that point of reflecting, understanding yourself, healing yourself, and then moving forward and evolving in life is really an amazing experience. And like I said, where I'm at now in my life, I couldn't be happier because I've chosen to do that.
It's so empowering. I think a lot of people would really just feel good hearing that because then there's like, hope at the end of the tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel where people are like, okay, I can go through they called it like the dark night of the storm and make it through all of this.
Yeah, that's for sure. The dark night of the soul, for sure. That's unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people in my experience thus far, um, have those challenges and choose to devolve. And I've seen people, unfortunately lose their lives, lose their freedom, really, derail and have a horrible life experience. My sister, died of a drug overdose because of the challenges she was facing, and really couldn't cope, and tried to self medicate, and that led to an untimely and very difficult situation and death. So I have personal experience with all three of the decisions in the ERD matrix. And I will say, by far, choosing to evolve is the way to go.
So, how do we get to this place where we can turn our pain into strength? What does that look like?
So again, it's knowing thyself, right? That's the beginning of all wisdom, right? Once you understand that uh, you are going through pain as a sign or an indicator for you to lean into it, work through it to make you better, right? Just like a plane takes off against the wind, right? A plane wants a headwind in order to take off. That challenge, that difficulty, that pain that you're going through is a challenge that life is giving you. So when you lean into that, overcoming that challenge is going to make you stronger. It's going to make you more adjusted. It's going to make you feel freer, more powerful. And so that is going to be the reward is seeing the pain as the reason that you're getting better. Just like when you lift weights, anyone who ever worked out, lifted weights, or ran, or anything, where once you start feeling pain and fatigue in your muscles, that's when you know you're getting better, you're getting stronger, you're getting gains. And the same thing holds true with emotions. You have emotional pain. Working through that emotional pain is what's going to make you stronger and more powerful, and that's where you turn that pain into power.
In your book, you talk about gratitude for resistance, and I found that to be just heartfelt. Why do you hold no resentment to those who cause you pain? Why is that so important?
Well, I came to the understanding that, in life, nothing really happens to you. The perspective should be in life, everything happens for you. So I look at, I hold no resentment against anyone, because just like I go to the gym, or I look at a set of weights, or, the track when I'm going to go run or whatever, as something that's there to make me better. Those experiences and those people were put there to make me better. They were there to challenge me to become a better person. So I'm grateful. That resistance made me stronger, wiser, and better. And so why would I wouldn't be mad at the weights after I finish working out. Why would I be mad at these folks who, put these challenges to me for me to become a better person?
And that's a great analogy. I think it puts everything in perspective when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Well, and so we've talked about ERD, evolve, revolve. I want to get into the evolve section of this. What does that look like?
Yeah. So the devolve basically is, I'll give my sister as an example. Devolving is the dictionary definition is to become a lower state, than you are. We all are very dynamic, amazing people, and if we choose to be less than that, which is, basically to numb out, the actions on devolving is to, stop taking responsibility for yourself, stop taking responsibility for your life, and checking out. I mean, for lack of a better word. So what that looked like for me when I was devolving was getting home from work. And although I was doing a pretty good job at work because I kept getting promoted and I got to an executive level, but that meant coming home and drinking, a bottle of bourbon to try to, numb the pain, numb the emotional anguish. And that was a choice to devolve till I found myself at a point where I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was a shell of my former self. So choosing to devolve is basically choosing not to take responsibility, choosing to check out, and choosing most likely substances or behaviors that are going to make you try to forget your current situation, which is, it's not going to end well. Again, leaning into your situation, learning, committing to developing and growing is really the decisions you need to make. I know it's hard, life is hard, but choosing to numb yourself and checking out in life is not going to lead you down to a good ending.
When you're going through that time, what made you take that hard look at yourself and say, okay, I got to make some changes?
Well, so in my book, again, I talk about I was married 3 times and I got divorced 3 times. And at the end of my third marriage, I said, "There's something wrong with me. There's got to be something wrong with me." I was drinking heavily. I was again using drugs. I was just laying around, almost 100 pounds overweight. I mean, I was just in a bad space. And, seeing my sister, uh, die of a drug overdose, seeing friends, delve into drugs and end up in prison and things of that nature. I didn't want to go down that path. And I was just, reflecting one day and I said, what's wrong with me? Why am I unlovable? Why can I, can't I find someone and be in a positive, loving, good relationship? And that set me on a mission to just kind of reflect on myself and understand why I was behaving the way I was. And then I realized that I was codependent. I realized that my childhood was affecting me significantly in my relationships. I realized that the chaos I exhibited as a child was showing up again in my life, and I was not taking positive actions in my personal life the same way I was doing at work. Right, at work I was working hard. I was doing everything I needed to do. My career was flourishing, but in my personal life, I wasn't succeeding. And so I took that energy and I put it into my personal life, and I took myself from that devolving space to say, no, I refuse to live here. I refuse to be here. I need to progress. And then that's, through, inspiration, I came up with ERD. I said, I have a choice. I can evolve, I can revolve, or I can devolve. And that has, expanded my consciousness in every way, because now every decision with that at top of mind, being that when I make this decision, whether it's sitting on my couch and eating a pint of ice cream or having, too many drinks when I'm out with friends, whatever it is, I know at top of mind that I have a path that I'm going down each time making one of these decisions, and it's helped me make the right decision. So it's kind of a compass.
Well, thank you for taking the time to explain that. I think it's so empowering for people to hear because you've done so very well for yourself going through all the challenges you have. And I wanted to say also, I'm so sorry for your loss. So when we lose somebody, that never goes away. It's always so difficult.
Thank you very much, Marion. That's very kind. Appreciate it.
Of course, my goodness. Why do you think people stay in unhealthy or confusing situations?
I think they just don't know. I think quite frankly, they're just not aware. I mean, they're aware that they're not in a good space. They're just not aware that there are patterns. And so if, one of the things that got clear with me is that, like, one of the recurring themes in my life was I was dealing with narcissistic dynamics, narcissistic abuse dynamics. And I was, I don't like to use the word victim, but I was engaged in narcissistic abuse dynamics. And when you realize that this is not unique to you, this is not something that you created, or that is something that's special just for you. There are patterns that other people have gone through, and other people have uh, given kind of their accounts and their stories. And once I learned that, I started to realize, wow, okay, so now what I used to call the roller coaster is, it's emotional attacks and destabilization that's done on purpose. Oh, well, now when I get belittled and somebody's knocking me off my high horse, for lack of a better word, I realize that's devaluation, and these are patterns that are very clearly seen once you have the consciousness to be able to understand them. If you don't understand them and you're in a state of confusion, just knowing that you're in confusion should put you on a path to start looking for answers as to why you're confused. And that's what I did. I started looking for answers as to why I was so confused about. I said, I'm a great guy. Why am I having such bad relationships? Well, it's because that personality type that I am attracts a certain other personality type that is a toxic dynamic. So again, people get stuck and stay stuck because they are not aware. They're not seeing the patterns. Once they see the patterns, they then could choose differently.
It's really having that education and then also doing the work to evolve.
Correct.
Mm, such a big deal. My goodness. I mean, how do people get to a place where they can reclaim personal clarity and control? Because it seems like sometimes that can be something that gets lost.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, being able to work at it constantly every day, right? And one of the things that I think is key for everyone that I started to do about 15 years ago is journaling, right? Once you start journaling and you start taking notes and you're keeping receipts on what's going on in your life, you can then, live in your own, trust your own lived experience and your own reality. So if you are in a relationship or in situations where things are repeating or they're just negative, by you taking copious notes and keeping receipts, as I like to say, you can refer back to that and then realize what's going on from an objective point of view, which I think is very important. So there's that, and then the ability to take action. Because it's not just knowing what's going on; you must take action to start feeling and reclaiming your power. So you have to take accessibility away from people. You can't give yourself and your energy to people freely. You have to remove their accessibility, and you really have to, internally validate yourself.
All those things make such a difference. And you have been doing this work for some time now. In your experience, what is one thing our listeners can take away with them today to make a massive shift in their life?
Always choose to evolve. Always. Evolve through all your problems, evolve through all your challenges. Choose to get better, get stronger, be more powerful. That's if there's nothing else I can leave you with, that is the key, is always choose to evolve.
Well, your book, Alchemy, it's as easy as ERD, is such a perfect framework for people to get to a place where they understand where they're at and they can start doing that evolving. Frank, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
Yes, the easiest way is on my website. It's e-r-d.com. And there you could find my book, you could find links to my YouTube videos, you could find links to my social media, and also there's a way to contact me and email me to directly communicate. So e-r-d.com. And I hope to hear from somebody.
Well, Frank, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And again, I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity. Have a great day.
Well, thank you, Frank. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Alchemy. It's as easy as ERD, a decision-making framework for turning pain into power. Make sure to connect with Frank Mesa at his website, e-r-d.com, for more information on his work and to be part of his community. And of course, pick up his book at Amazon or any local bookstore. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.